Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing, kind of, with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, a couple of months ago, I'm gonna say it was in early June, late May-ish, sometime around that time, I put up a post on my on the channel, because YouTube has this thing now where you can actually make like posts and kind of like social media posts. YouTube is kind of going in that route of being a social media platform. You can do stories like Instagram, you can do posts like Facebook. So I've been utilizing those tools over the last 3-4 months regularly, and I made a post where I basically asked you guys. I said the following. Here's what I said. I said, I want to connect more of my subscribers, so ask me anything you want about myself, and I'll answer it in a future video. This should be fun. Drop your comments down below. So I got roughly 31 comments, and I wanted to just go through them and just take the time to answer you guys, because honestly, this is a video that I've been meaning to do for a while. I just haven't had a chance to do it. But before we do that video, as always, gotta plug the sponsor. Shout out to Fighting Mad, the pound for pound kings of boxing apparel. Whether you're at the fights, at the gym, or just at the house chilling, go to Fighting Mad for all your boxing apparel needs. They got t-shirts, shirts, sweatshirts, and hoodies featuring fighters like Manny Pacquiao and Muhammad Ali. On my shirt, we got the Joe Calzaghe Prince of Wales t-shirts. Probably my favorite one, or my second favorite one, along with Kovalev, my Ali one as well. But good stuff there at Fighting Mad. Big shout out to Rich. So let's get into the questions. I want to take my time to really answer these, because this will help you guys understand who it is I am a little bit more, how I got to where I'm at as far as covering the sport of boxing, and just I want to do more of these in the future. So hopefully this goes well. So we'll start with the first question. The first question comes from Undisputed Champ. Big shouts out to Undisputed Champ. He asked, how did you become friends with Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield? Now, I've built up quite a following here on YouTube from my interviews with Bowe, Holyfield, Shannon Briggs, Stacey McKinley, Jesse Robinson, guys like that. Those guys, all those guys I just mentioned, I all met at the same place, which was the Heavyweight Factory. Now, to answer your question, Undisputed Champ, how did I become friends with Bowe and Holyfield? Well, I want to just make this clear. Me and Holyfield are pretty cool. We're cool when we see each other, but I wouldn't really call me and Holyfield friends. We don't really talk outside of the boxing gym. But we are cool when we see it's love. When he sees me and I see him, it's love. I'm closer to Bowe than I am Holyfield. But to answer your question, I got close to both of them and developed a good rapport with both Holyfield and Bowe over the years. It all started back in 2015. In 2015, if you guys go back and you dig through the archives of my channel, I started on YouTube actually covering basketball, NBA. When I got out of high school, I wanted to get into sports media because I always loved sports. I loved being around it. I played it a little bit when I was, when I was younger. I played a lot of sports. I played baseball. I played basketball. I boxed a little bit. All kinds of stuff. After about a year and a half of covering the NBA, I did stuff with the Dallas Mavericks, the Charlotte Hornets. They were the Bobcats back then. The Orlando Magic. I did stuff in the D League. You can go see all that. I have interviews on this channel with like Steph Curry, Kemba Walker, Vince Carter, guys like that. If you go really dig through my archives. But long story short, I decided that because at one point in time on True School Sports, I was covering basketball, the NFL, and boxing at the same time. I actually was making videos like the way I do my news videos now. I was doing that for all three sports at one time, and I remember so clearly. It got to a point where it became a kind of a chore to make videos about the other sports like the NFL and basketball. So eventually, what I decided to do was I just decided to pick the one I liked the most to talk about, and that was boxing. And from that point forward, I wanted to start doing boxing interviews the way I was doing in the NBA. So then, obviously I decided to go look to my area, and the closest gym to me was the Heavyweight Factory. And the first fight I covered was Shannon Briggs had a fight with Michael Marone, local fighter, local club fight. But the fight wasn't so much a big thing as the event was. So the fight was at the Hard Rock. Shannon Briggs, this was in the middle of, at the peak of like Shannon Briggs' Let's Go Champ movement. He had a fight with a guy named Michael Marone. It was pretty much a fight to make him look good and get a knockout. But they had a big event around his fight. Like they had what they called for the fight the heavyweight reunion, and the promoter Chris Lawrence, who owns the Heavyweight Factory, he brought in 26 ex-heavyweight champions. They had a whole weekend where the heavyweight champions got together. So like Lennox Lewis was there, Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko were there, Larry Holmes was there, Pinklin Thomas, Leon and Michael Spinks were there, Mike Tyson was there, And that's also where Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield were. And that was the first fight I ever actually covered. And that's why I first met them. That's why I first interviewed them. And after that, not too shortly after that event, Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe actually wound up moving to South Florida, moving to my area, and they began working for the Heavyweight Factory. And then that's where I began to see Riddick Bowe at the gym regularly. That's where I began to see Evander Holyfield regularly at the gym. And then just as they began working for the gym, I got close to both of them, and that's kind of how it started. They moved to South Florida. They got cool with the Heavyweight Factory. They both started working as partners with the Heavyweight Factory. And that's pretty much how I became cool with him. But I will have to acknowledge that I'm a lot closer to Riddick Bowe than I am Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield, I see him when I see him. Bowe, I have his number. We text. I've worked out with Bowe. I've went out to eat with Bowe. So me and Bowe are a lot closer than Holyfield. But that's no slate on Holyfield. I love Holyfield. He's a great person. When he sees me, he gives me lots of time. He respects me. I respect him. And it's all love. So yeah, I'm blessed to even just like talk to them as much as I do, because you got to understand, these are two of the great heavyweight champions that produced one of the great heavyweight trilogies in boxing. Not just heavyweight trilogies period in boxing history. And I just feel it's probably one of my greatest honors and joys doing this on YouTube, to kind of like document them in the back nine and in the twilight of their lives. I get to document that interesting part of their lives, and when they're not fighting no more, and they're kind of more, they become more humanized in this point of their life. Because when you're fighting, you're like rah rah rah, I want to beat you up, I'm gonna knock you out. But now they're a lot more friendly to each other and just to people in general. Not that they were bad people when they were fighting, but I'm saying when the cameras are off, fighters tend to become more human. They had that more human side to them. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how I became friends with both of them. So I hope that answered your question, Undisputed Boxing. The second question comes from HG13 Caster Troy. That's his name. It's an interesting name, so shout out to him. His question is, how did you get into boxing, and what other legends have you met? Now, how I got into boxing was very interesting. So growing up in South Florida, my dad had me around a lot of sports. My dad was a single father. My dad raised me from the age of like 4 or 5. Him and my mom got divorced when I was pretty young. My dad got custody of me, which is rare, because I know normally in America it's the opposite. The mother gets custody of the son and not the father. But he got custody. He got full custody of me, and he always had me playing sports. So growing up, I believe it or not, my favorite sport was baseball. Growing up, I played a lot of baseball. I'm still to this day a massive Marlins fan, big Miami Marlins fan. Been going to games for my whole life pretty much, and I love sports. Like I followed everything growing up. I followed a lot of things. For me, I'll be honest with you, boxing to me was not my favorite sport growing up. And I was for the most part, when I was a kid, I was a casual boxing fan. But the first fight I ever watched in my life was when I was 6 years old. It was when Bernard Hopkins fought Felix Trinidad. And my dad's Puerto Rican, my family's Puerto Rican, I'm Puerto Rican. So everybody was going for Trinidad. But I liked Hopkins. I liked the fact that when he walked out, he had a little mask on, and the crowd was booing him, and he threw up the X. It just kind of it reminded me of WWE villains, like the heels in WWE, and I kind of gravitated towards that. So I liked Hopkins, and Hopkins ultimately wound up giving Felix Trinidad a thorough ass whooping, and that's kind of where it started. And then as the years went by, I would watch the big fights. Like I watched a lot of Pacquiao's fights growing up. Pacquiao, Cotto, Pacquiao. Margarito, Pacquiao, Marquez. I watched a lot of, obviously, Cotto as well. Cotto, Claudio, Cotto, Pacquiao, Cotto, Mayweather, all Mayweather's fights. And I followed that. And then, the older I got, the more I liked boxing. My dad was an amateur boxer. He fought as an amateur for a little bit when he was younger in Massachusetts. He used to train out of I think it was Romalo's boxing gym in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is where they shot the movie The Fighter with Mickey Ward. So he boxed out of there for a little bit when he was younger. To answer the second part of your question, what other legends have you met? I've met a lot of legends. I've met Leon Spinks. I've met Larry Holmes. I've met Leon Spinks, Larry Holmes, Michael Carbajal. I met Tiger Woods yesterday at the hotel. That was pretty cool, even though he's not a boxing guy. I met Oliver McCall. I've met Roberto Duran. I've met Iran Barkley. I've met who else? I met a lot of people. Stacey McKinley. I consider him a legend. I've met it's a lot of people. Vitaly Klitschko, if you want to consider him a legend. I've met Vladimir Klitschko. I've met Miguel Cotto. I met Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I met a lot of people, man. I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of legends. I can't remember them all, but those are some of the names that come to mind when you say legends. Yeah, so there's those guys. But to kind of go back to your first part of your question, how did I get into boxing? Another part of my story as far as how I got into boxing was when I was about 17 going on 18. I remember I was really depressed in life. Like I was going through a lot of depression. I had moved to Texas out of high school. Oh no, I was 18 going on 19. So I moved out of Texas, coming out of high school, and I just really I had a lot of things going on, like with my family. I try to please my family. I know some people watch this may know what I'm talking about. Like when you have what you want to do in life, but then your family has what they want you to do in life, and I try to please them. And I got to a place where I got so busy trying to make everybody else happy that I wasn't happy. I had no joy. I was sorrowful. So I was really depressed. And I needed a way at that time to release my just what was going on inside of me in a healthy way. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start learning how to box. And so I was living in Texas, and then I moved back to Dania Beach in 2014. And I remember at that point in time, in Dania Beach, so there's only one boxing gym. That's Canino's boxing gym. So I took my ass down to Canino's boxing gym, and I started learning how to box, and I just loved every bit of it. I loved the sparring. I loved the adrenaline rush of as funny as it is to say, like, I guess being punched in the mouth and punching somebody else in the mouth. You know, it fed a part of my soul that had never been fed before, and that's kind of another way I grew to love the boxing. So my dad was a boxer. He made me watch boxing, and I boxed myself for quite a number of years. So I hope that answered your questions. Lee Churches asked, from all the famous football clubs in England, what made you choose Everton? Okay, now this is a great question. So back in 2016, I was back when I had my apartment in 2016. I was living with my boy Paul Martinez. Shout out to Paul. And we actually wound up getting another roommate, and our apartment wasn't very big, but we got another roommate. His name was Darren Willoughby. He was Nigerian. He was Nigerian. So Darren Willoughby being Nigerian, he was a big football fan. Just a fan of English football. He had lived in London. He's a big fan of Arsenal. Arsenal Football Club. So he was watching a lot of Arsenal games while he was at our house on his computer. And growing up, for me, I actually played a lot of footy or soccer, whatever you want to call it, footy, soccer, football. I played a lot of it growing up here in America, just for fun. I always liked the sport. I just never really had a team to cheer for. And I had watched I have friends who are fans of English football, and I go to their house and I'd watch Arsenal and United and Chelsea and those teams. But I never really liked any. I didn't like Arsenal. I didn't like Chelsea. I didn't like United. I didn't like nothing against those teams. They didn't do much for me. And then I remember one day I was watching my boy Demo was watching this is back in like late 2016. Yeah, like December of 2016. My boy Darren Willoughby was watching Arsenal play Everton at like 3 in the afternoon, and which means it was 8 o'clock in England. And so Arsenal played Everton under the lights at Goodison Park. And when I saw Goodison Park and I saw that beautiful green pitch, and I saw those lights, the way they hit out the green pitch, and I felt that I could feel the atmosphere of Goodison Park through the damn TV screen. And this is back when Everton had like Lukaku and Ross Barkley and those guys. So they won that game 2-1. They scored on 2 set pieces. One from Seamus Coleman, the other one from Ashley Williams, who was horrible. But I could feel the passion of Goodison Park through the TV screen. So then when Everton won that game, I was kind of rubbing it in my friend's face because he's an Arsenal fan. It was just kind of fun to do. And then he started talking about how horrible Everton is and how Everton is not a nothing club and whatnot. So then I Googled Everton. I Googled the history of Everton. And I found out they had 9 league titles, the 4th most English football. I found out they had 5 FA Cups. They won the European Cup Winners' Cup in '85. I learned about the great strikers like Dixie Dean, Graham Sharp, Gary Lineker, Andy Gray, Bob Latchford, and the list goes on of the great number 9s at Everton Football Club. And from that point forward, it was just Everton. That's all it was. And then I also learned that a lot of the top American players, and I know, take it for what it's worth, I'm an American. And when I was a casual football fan, I followed the U.S. men's national team. So I knew who Tim Howard was, I knew who Landon Donovan was, and I knew who Brian McBride was. And when I found out those guys had all played for Everton, it was a no-brainer. Everton was my team. Then also I found out Tony Bellew was an Everton fan. Muhammad Ali had attended the 1966 FA Cup final, which was Everton versus Sheffield Wednesday at Wembley Stadium. So Everton even had ties to boxing. So it just made too much sense to not support Everton, and it's been Everton ever since. And it's been a wild and painful ride at many points in time, but it's also been a joyous ride. And I love Everton Football Club, and I'm looking very forward to going to England in December and just attending a match at Goodison Park. So yeah, shout out to Everton Football Club. I hope that answered your question. In Indio Goba, I don't know how to say your name, but he said, "Where can I get a pair of those sunglasses?" And then he also asked if you can make a change to boxing rules, be it within a fight or to do with broader governing of boxing, what would you want it to be? Okay, great. Where can I get it? Well, I got these glasses at what was it called? There's a place near where I live called iLab. It's a glass store near where I live in South Florida called iLab. So I'm sure if you go to your local eyewear store, you can find glasses just like this. To answer your second question, if you can make a change to boxing rules, what would it be? It'd be a couple things. Number one, I would make it mandatory for all the judges to go get their eye exams every 6 months so that we know that their vision is good. That's number one. Number two, I genuinely believe that we should have in boxing odd number rounds, so that way it's a lot harder to score draws and that there aren't as many controversial decisions. Because back in the day when you had 15-round fights, it was a lot harder to have controversial decisions, So I would do that. Odd number rounds. I would have the judges get their eyes checked every 6 months, and I would say at the bare minimum, at least for non-world title fights, I would like there to be open scoring. So open scoring meaning that every judge has to reveal what they're scoring as the fight goes on, so you know who's winning as the fight goes on. Those are just a couple things off the top of my head. I know there's also, as it pertains to performance-enhancing drugs, I really think there should be a lifetime ban for repeat offenders. There's that. And aside from that, but it's a two-sided coin with PEDs. I think there should be a lifetime ban for repeat offenders, but I also think that the governing bodies need to be more transparent with, like they need to, because I know there is a problem between the doping agencies and them communicating what's allowed to be taken and what's not allowed to be taken. So I think they need to have the fighters on some sort of mailing list, and whenever they ban a substance, they need to mail it within. They need to mail that, email the fighters, this is no longer allowed to be taken, okay? And then that way the fighters can all know at the same time that they can't take whatever they want to take over the counter. So those are just a couple things that come to my head, and that's what it is. So I hope that answered your question. Awesome shirt, Malachias Grace. How did you get into boxing for yourself? I kind of answered that earlier. My dad was involved in boxing. I watched boxing casually as a kid. And then I boxed myself, not as an amateur or anything like that, but just as a gym fighter, just as a guy who sparred a good amount of rounds. I wasn't trying to become a pro or anything like that. Although, some fighters tell me that I have the talent to be a good pro, but I don't want to deal with all that. I like covering boxing, so there's that. If you could get in the ring with one fighter from either the past or the present, who are you choosing? This question is from Parmalee. That's a great question. I would say the fighter I would like to get in the ring with is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, because he's my favorite fighter of all time. And I feel like the way I kind of box in many ways, there's some Roman Gonzalez in my style. So I think if me and him fought, it would be a great firefight. We'd be on the inside. We're about the same size too. I'm probably a bit bigger than Roman Gonzalez. And just Chocolatito, all-time great, first ballot Hall of Famer. It would be the greatest honor in the world to share a ring with Roman Gonzalez because he's a beast. So, I would choose him. And if I had to pick a second fighter, I would say Michael Nunn, even though he's a lot bigger and rangier than me. But Michael Nunn would be another guy. Michael Carbajal, Little Hands of Stone, who Riddick Bowe, when I hit the bag, Riddick Bowe says I remind him of Michael Carbajal. If you know who Michael Carbajal is, Riddick Bowe says that I remind him of Michael Carbajal, because he says even though I only weigh about 133 or 130, I punch like I'm 160 or 155, 154. So, those are a couple. So I would say Roman Gonzalez, Michael Nunn, Michael Carbajal. Those are the guys I like to get in the ring with. Joe Morales asks, where are you from? When did you start boxing? What's it like to be able to hang out with Riddick Bowe and Evander? Are you ever gonna talk to or interview Mike Tyson? Okay, well, originally I was actually born in North Carolina. I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My dad was in the army. So yeah, shout out to Fayetteville, Vietnam as they call it. I just say Charlotte because nobody knows what Fayetteville is, but yeah, no, Fayetteville. I was born in Fayetteville. When did I start boxing? I started boxing in early 2015. That's when I started boxing. At Canino's Boxing Gym in Dania Beach. So big shout out to Bonnie Canino and Yvonne Reese doing big things there. What's it like to be able to hang with Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield? It's great. It's honestly surreal. Like now, I'm kind of like at first I was kind of starstruck, but that's worn off for a while now, and I can kind of look at them as just as people. It's fun. It's fun, and sometimes it's not until I go back and I rewatch their fights that I realize like, oh shit, this is Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe. But it's great to hang out with them. It's fantastic. Not to just hang out with them, but for them to be so open and candid and just talk about things in their careers with each other, amongst each other, and also with myself, that normally they wouldn't talk about other people and that took years of building that kind of trust in those relationships. So I really appreciate the fact that they gave me time, and I'm happy to give them my time as well. I mean, not that I'm just a kid from Dania. He also asked, "Are you ever gonna talk to or interview Mike Tyson?" I think that I mean, I can't say when that's gonna happen, but yeah, I think that day will happen one day because Stacey McKinley, who I'm actually with right now, like right now I'm in Atlanta, as you can see, I'm not in South Florida. This is not a South Florida skyline. Stacey McKinley is a good friend of mine, and he trained Mike Tyson like longer than anybody, I think. So I think that day will come one day. I don't know when, but hopefully one day, man. Because I've interviewed Larry Holmes, I've interviewed Vladimir Klitschko, I've interviewed Riddick Bowe, I've interviewed Evander Holyfield, I've interviewed Leon Spinks. I've interviewed some great heavyweights, but Mike Tyson is definitely one for the bucket list. So when it does, I hope it's a great interview. I hope it's a classic interview, and I don't want it to be like I want it to be like one of my best interviews when it does happen. So I'm gonna be optimistic and say yes. Okay, next question. Rico Rocca says, your top 5 favorite boxers to watch all time. This is a great question. My favorite boxing, my top 5. Okay, so this is the first couple will be easy. Roman Cholatito Gonzalez, that's number 1. Number 2 would probably be, I'm gonna say Riddick Bowe. Yeah, Roman Gonzalez, Riddick Bowe, and just so you know, I was a big Riddick Bowe fan before I knew him. Roman Gonzalez, Riddick Bowe. Probably Michael Nunn. Those guys, Evander Holyfield, and then see, the 5th one is always the hardest, right? The 5th one is always the hardest. We'll go with Larry Holmes. So yeah, Roman Gonzalez, Michael Nunn, Riddick Bowe, Evander Holyfield, and Larry Holmes. Those are my favorite. Bowe and Holyfield because they have some entertaining fights. Especially Holyfield. Holyfield has so many classic fights to watch. Not even just a heavyweight, like even at cruiserweight, he has some pretty great fights. Like his fight with Dwight Muhammad Qawi was good. Ricky Parkey was a great performance. Fights like that. Even his fight with Carlos De Leon, another great fight from him. Roman Gonzalez, he was someone that I kind of wanted to be like in the ring. Like I liked his balance. I liked the way he got off punches in like rapid succession. So I liked him. And Michael Nunn was just so smooth. He was a smooth southpaw. If I could choose to box like one guy, I'd box like him. So yeah, those 5 guys would do it for me. How popular would AJ be when or if he wins the rematch? And do you think the flow of cash and the eyes in the heavyweight will reduce if he retires today? Great question. That question is from my main man Kamal, who always supports and always comments. So big shout out to my main man Kamal. Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't speak for the UK, but I can talk about America. In America, we love a good comeback story. And right now, Anthony Joshua, he's in the depths. He's nowhere right now. He's not at the top of the heavyweight division. So if he comes back and he beats Ruiz, it's going to be great because now you're talking about Anthony Joshua, the only man in the heavyweight division who is a 2-time heavyweight champion. 2-time heavyweight champion. So that just Anthony Joshua, two-time heavyweight champion, has a great ring to it. Do I think that the flow that there'd be less money in the heavyweight division if he retired today? Absolutely. Anthony Joshua is the only heavyweight in the division that has transcended the hardcore boxing fans. You know what I'm saying? Like Fury and Wilder, they're starting to slowly break out of that, but they're still fighters that are known to mainly hardcore boxing fans. Anthony Joshua has the hardcore boxing fans. He has mainstream media. He's taken over the UK. He's building his profile here in America. So yeah, if he retires, a lot of money will not be in the division because you're talking about a guy who can, with the snap of a finger, whether he's fighting Tyson Fury or freaking Carlos Takam, he can sell out 80,000 seat stadiums. And people can say, like, a lot of people say, oh well, that's because it's the UK and they support and they support their fighters. But if that was the case, how come every fighter's not selling out 80,000 tickets in the UK? You see what I'm saying? So he's a special kind of fighter as far as at the box office. So I would say yes. To answer your question, yes, there would definitely be a significant drop in the amount of money in the heavyweight division if Anthony Joshua retired today. So I hope that answered your question, Kamal. Shazad Ayub says, what do you do for a living aside from being a YouTube content creator? So this is a great question. Okay, well, to answer your question, this is what I do for a living right now. Even though I've been very lazy recently, this is what I do for a living right now. In fact, as early as this year in 2019, I quit my last 9-to-5 job to do this. And it's had its ups and its downs. Like in June, I was on a massive up. Right now I'm on a bit of a down. But to answer your question though, before I decided to start doing this like this full time, my last job I worked at Publix. I don't know if you know what Publix is. I don't know where you reside, Shazad, but I used to work at Publix, which is a very big grocery supermarket in the southern part of the United States of America. It's probably the biggest supermarket in the southern part of the United States of America. It was founded in Florida. It's the biggest, hands down, definitely the biggest supermarket in Florida. There's a million Publixes every street corner in Florida. My last job, I worked in the deli. So my job was to make subs, cut meats. I was a meat cutter. I made subs, all that good stuff. So yeah, I used to have the hairnet, and I had my little uniform and my little name tag with the apron, and that was my last job before Publix. Before that Publix job, last year, before I got the Publix job, I worked at another grocery place called Save-A-Lot, which is it's like a grocery market where they have a lot of off-brand products. So basically, if you're poor, if you're a poor mofo, if you're poor as hell and you don't got money, you're shopping at Save-A-Lot. I used to work at Save-A-Lot as a cashier, which I don't know how I did that because I have no patience and I don't really pay a lot of attention. So yeah, Publix, Save-A-Lot, and then before Save-A-Lot, so basically the jobs that I've held since I've been on YouTube, I've had a number of jobs since I've been on YouTube. My first, back in from 2015. So from 2015 to like the middle of 2017, I worked at a pizza place. I worked at Antonio's Pizza in Dania Beach, on Dania Beach Boulevard, on East Dania Beach Boulevard. I was a pizza man for 2.5 years, and that actually helped me travel a lot. That job was very good for me, helped me keep a roof over my head and go to the Terrence Crawford fight and the Errol Spence fight, things like that. I worked at a check cashing office for like a year. I've had all kinds of jobs, man. But right now, my only two forms of income are YouTube. I get a check every month from YouTube, and the fine folks at Fighting Mad. I got my sponsorship with them. So right now, that's what it is, and it just my channel has gotten to a point now where I'm pretty known in the boxing world, in the boxing industry, and people know who I am, and people on YouTube know who I am. Even people who don't subscribe to me know who I am. Like I have a couple of million view videos, so people are gonna know about True School Sports whether they want to subscribe or not. So yeah, I'm working on just building this up because I really feel like I've gotten to the point now where I can do that, and my talent's taking me far. Like right now, I'm in Atlanta, and I didn't really pay for a dime of any of this. This is all just from people in boxing, supporting your boy BT. So yeah, hope that answered your question. Yeah, I was going to ask you how you became friends with Bowe and Holyfield. The videos you filmed with them are priceless. Yeah, I answered that already. And that question was from SideFX996. So yeah, I answered that already. If you could watch one fighter from the past or present, who would it be? Also, can you remember the fight that hooked you on boxing? And this comes from Slicky Baby. So Slicky Baby asked this question. If I could only watch one fighter from past or present, who would it be? Like in person? I guess if you're asking me who could I watch in person, I'd probably say one fighter I would like to watch in person, like fight live and in person, would probably be. I'm gonna go with Floyd Patterson, man. Floyd Patterson, being a fighter, because Floyd Patterson was who Muhammad Ali patented his style after. Floyd Patterson was one of like Muhammad Ali's guys, pretty much. Or Oh, not Floyd. Was it Floyd? No. Ray Robinson. I'm saying. I'm thinking Ray Robinson. I'm getting confused. Ray Robinson, I should say. Sugar Robinson probably be one fighter because of his influence on Ali. So I'd want to see the fighter influence Ali in person, live and in color. But to give you an answer that you probably wouldn't expect, one fighter I'd like to see in person would probably be Miguel Cotto, the most underrated Mexican fighter of all time. Miguel Cotto was a flyweight fighter, and he defended his flyweight title like 15 or 16 times. He's probably the most underrated Mexican fighter of all time. One of the best defensive Mexican fighters of all time. He's someone that doesn't get enough credit when we talk about the great Mexican fighters. So I like to see him fight in person. Michael Nunn, love Michael Nunn. So yeah, I like to see him fight in person. But yeah, Floyd Patterson's another one. I mentioned him already. Floyd Patterson. There's a lot of guys, man. But you said one. You said only watch once. Let me see. I want to give you a good answer, so I got to think really hard about this. Who is one fighter that I want to see in person for the rest of my life, past or present? Great question. I don't want to give you the normal answers because everybody was gonna say like Sugar Ray Leonard and all those guys. I want to give you a good answer. Maybe Tony Zale. Tony Zale, the middleweight. I'm gonna go Tony Zale. Tony Zale was a great middleweight. Tony Zale was a middleweight, I think in the 50s or the 60s. He had a great trilogy with Rocky Graciano. Underrated trilogy that doesn't get talked about enough in boxing. He had some amazing fights at the Chicago Stadium and Soldier Field and places like that. So I'll go Rocky. I'll go with Tony Zale. Tony Zale had some barn burners, so he'd be a good guy to watch. How do you know Bowe and Holyfield, and for how long for? I answered that already. How do I know Holyfield and Bowe? They worked at I covered that fight at the Hard Rock when they had the big heavyweight reunion at the Shannon Briggs fight. They started working at the gym not too long after, and that was about 4 years ago. So I've been knowing them for about 4 years, going on 5. Have you ever boxed? If you mean like as an amateur, no. As a pro, definitely not. But as far as in the gym sparring, yes, lots of that. I've had sparring sessions at Canino's boxing gym. I've sparred at the Heavyweight Factory. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I know what it takes to be. I know what it's like to be a pro fighter. I know what it takes. Everybody knows what it takes to be a pro fighter, but I don't know what it's like to be a pro fighter. I have friends who are in the pro fight game. Like some of my good friends who are currently active in boxing are like Adrian Granados is a great friend of mine. Trevor Bryan's a friend of mine. I got some like local fighters who are like Blake Davis is a friend of mine. He's a 4-0. So I have friends who tell me what it's like, but I don't know myself. So I just from the outside, I use my little bit of ring experience and what I know from reading a lot about boxing, because I do a lot of reading about boxing. I study the history of boxing, and that's pretty much where I get my knowledge from. And I listen, I'm 24 years old, so I'm not gonna say I don't know. Whenever I get around like guys like Stacey McKinley or like Jesse Robinson or just any of these old heads in boxing, I always realize how little I know about boxing. And I actually like that because it keeps me in a place of being humble, and I learn more that way. So, yeah. Top five fighters of yours, current and past. Not necessarily the best. Mine are in no particular order. Are Arturo Gotti, Salvador Sanchez, Edwin Valero, Pac-Man, and Eric Morales. He said, okay. Those are good. And that was from Night on the Tiles. That's his question. I think I answered that earlier. Roman Gonzalez, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, Larry Holmes, and I think I said Michael Nunn. Michael Nunn and Manny Pacquiao. We'll say Michael Nunn and Manny Pacquiao. Who do you got, Spence or Porter? I mean, I'm actually shooting this video at the time of Spence Porter, so if Spence loses, I'll look like an idiot, but I got Spence via decision. How were you able to be successful on this channel? And also, what did you do to get started? This comes from Evan Melendez, so a big shout out to him. Successful. Well, it took a lot of trial and error. And believe you me, I mean, I'm years into this, and I still make errors, and I still make some mistakes. So you never stop making mistakes. You just learn and you get better with time. But I would say that the way I was able to be successful was I just persevered, man. I persevered. I kept putting out videos, whether they were good or bad, whether they had 4.3 million views or whether they had 43 views. I just put them out. I just put them out. And believe you me, I have videos that have 4.3 million views and I have videos that have 43 views. So I didn't make videos from the perspective of trying to get views. Do I like to get views? Yes. Who doesn't like to get views? Who doesn't like to hear people say that you made a great video? What I did to get started was I just put out content. I put out content and I just figured things out as I went along. I would go to the gyms. I would interview everybody, whether it be a world champion, contender, amateur, prospect, cut man. I interviewed whoever it was. I kind of took the Ellie Setback approach. Because if you look at Ellie Setback's channel, ES News, big shout out to him. I met him a couple of times. A lot of people don't like Ellie, but a lot of people watch Ellie because Ellie has interviews with everybody. So you're going to watch Ellie for that reason. And for those reasons, I was able to be successful because I've had videos on this channel that I thought were going to get millions of views that only got like 1,000 views or 10,000 views or 100,000 views. And then I had videos that I thought were going to get 50 views, get 4 million views. So you never really know on YouTube what video is going to get views. I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes I'll put out a video and I'll know, okay, this video is going to get views. But sometimes a lot of times you don't. You don't know what's going to get views. So you put things out there, you keep grinding, and hopefully people like what you're doing. What I did to get started was I got me a camera. I got myself on a little schedule. So I remember in the early days, like in 2015, I used to always try to shoot 3 videos a day, and I did that for like a couple months straight, and then my channel began to grow that way as I started getting interviews as well. And then late 2016, I started doing live fight reactions. The first live fight reaction I ever did was Jamal Charlo versus Julian Williams, and I've been doing live fight reactions for a lot of fights since then. So everybody has their niche. You gotta find yours. You gotta find what works for you. And I found what works for me. What doesn't work for me. I tried a lot of things that do work, and I tried a lot of things that don't work. So you got to try what works for you. So I hope that answered your question, Evan. The new ODB, he says, what are your long and short-term goals in this game? Okay. Well, that's a great question. So I guess my short-term goals in this game would be to get to a place covering boxing where I'm just consistent, because I sometimes life happens and I don't want to be in front of the camera. It happens to me sometimes. To be honest with you, I don't want to be in front of the camera sometimes. But then, short-term goals would be just become consistent on YouTube, which I've been saying for like years now. And I feel like I have been consistent many parts of this year, but I got to maintain that. So my short-term goals would be get so consistent to the point where I have the following and I have the viewership to make the money to travel every month. I want to be able to travel every month. My long-term goal is I want to be respected. I want to be looked at as like a It's a good question. I don't want to say that I want to just be a respected boxing journalist, because that's not all I want. I kind of want to be like the happy medium between, because like I like Radio Raheem. I want to kind of be like somewhere between Radio Raheem and then somewhere between like Ellie Setback. I like both. They both do great things. I want to be like the combination of Radio Raheem, Ellie Setback, and Thunderdome Boxing Talk. Now, all 3 of those guys that I just named do different things. Radio Raheem does really great professional interviews, so I want to be known for giving great professional interviews and things like that. Ellie Setback is really good at capturing moments in the gyms and bringing the lighter side of the fighter. So I want to be able to do that as well. And then Thunderdome Boxing Talk, he's very good at giving long and detailed breakdowns of fights by himself. And that's also something that I've done many times myself. So I want to be something like those 3 guys. Those are 3 guys I respect for what they do, you know. And obviously, I'm actually right now, I'm in the process of writing my first book. The title of the book is Just a Kid from Dania, The Untold Stories of a Boxing YouTuber. So basically the book is going to be about my 4 years covering boxing and some of the stories that I have from covering boxing, how it's affected my life, how I got into boxing. There's a lot of personal stuff in there. There's stories about fighters, like there's chapters in there's things in there about like Bowe and Holyfield. I have a whole chapter in there about Bowe and Holyfield and some interesting stories about them. I have some interesting stories about Adrian Granados, who I spent a lot of time with, who's a good friend of mine. I'm writing a chapter about Jarrell Miller, who I've dealt with a lot. I read a whole chapter in there about Shannon Briggs. There's a whole chapter in there about how boxing helped me get through depression in my life, all kinds of stuff. So I want to write books. The first one, I'm like 2/3 of the way done with the first one. Like I'm gonna write 12 chapters, because in boxing you have 12 rounds for a fight. I want to write 12 chapters. I've written 8 chapters so far, so I got 4 more to write, and then I'll be done. So I'm hoping to get that done before I go to England in December. And then after that, I want to write another book. So I want to become a published author. I want to write books on boxing like Thomas Hauser. I want to make great professional interviews like Radio Raheem. I want to do great boxing breakdowns like Thunderdome Boxing Talk. And I want to capture great moments in the gym like Ellie Seckbach. So I want to be like kind of those 4 guys: Thomas Hauser, Radio Raheem, Ellie Seckbach, and Thunderdome Boxing Talk. And then obviously I put my little BT, Dania Beach flavor into it all. And then you get me, you get Brendan Taylor, you get True School Sports. So I hope that answered your question. My short-term goals, as always, is just to provide people with great boxing content. Let the fighters tell their stories, things like that. So I hope that answered your question, New ODB. Maz Chingon asked, in a fantasy fight, who would win in between a prime Joe Louis and a prime Evander Holyfield? I'd be interested in Evander's opinion if you could ask. Okay, well, I would ask that, but I think I know how he's going to answer that. And then Benny Salas asked, what do you think about this Anthony Joshua rematch? I like this Anthony Joshua rematch with what's up?
What's up, Brandon?
Yeah, you the cut man?
Yes.
You're Jorge?
Luis.
Louis?
Yes. How are you, sir?
Good.
Very good, thank you.
I'm making a YouTube video right now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
It's all good. But Benny, you asked, what do I think about the Anthony Joshua Andy Ruiz rematch? I think it's a good rematch. Psychologically, I think both fighters are at a different place in their career. Anthony Joshua, for the first time since he was a prospect, is now challenging for belts. And Andy Ruiz is now in a position where he's a champion, and he's really been enjoying the fruits of his labor. He's bought a house, he's bought a Rolls Royce, so he's kind of in a position where he might be, if he doesn't approach the fight the right way, he might be like Buster Douglas. He might be the new Buster Douglas if he's been enjoying his success way too much. So I like it. I think it's very interesting. The fact that they have it in Saudi Arabia now, of all places, is that kind of adds more of a interest to it. And just from a boxing standpoint, Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz, their styles mesh really well. Andy Ruiz is a shorter fighter; he throws a lot of punches. Anthony Joshua is a big, bulky guy with good punching power and good technical boxing skills. My gut tells me, like, a part of me feel like I'm torn between this fight. Part of me thinks that Eddie Hearn is cashing Anthony Joshua out. That's why it's in Saudi Arabia. And then another part of me thinks that Anthony Joshua is going to get the belt back because it's part of the script. So it's a compelling fight. The first fight was exciting. If you were here when I was live for that fight, then it was good. That I had a great time watching it. So I'm sure I'll enjoy the second fight. And that's pretty much all the questions. So I hope I answered you guys' questions as best as I could. I answered them as best as I could. I really try to go as in depth as I could answering you guys' questions. And we'll do this again sometime. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you want to see me do this again, let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you smash that like button. And like I say in every single one of my videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.